The 47th floor of the Caldwell Tower smells like old money and fresh contempt. Mahogany panels. Floor-to-ceiling glass overlooking a Manhattan that has no idea what is about to happen. A conference table long enough to park a car on, surrounded by 8 men in suits that cost more than most people's monthly rent. Crystal water carafes. Leather chairs. The particular silence of a room that has never once doubted its own importance. And at the far end of that table, where the chairman's seat sits like a throne, a black woman in dark jeans, a charcoal cashmere turtleneck, and simple flats. A worn leather notebook in front of her. A phone face down to her right. She looks like she took a wrong turn somewhere between the campus bookstore and the faculty parking lot. She is not lost. Her name is Dr. Zara Stiller. She is 44 years old. She has a Harvard MBA, a Wharton Finance Certificate, and a PhD in corporate restructuring from Columbia. She has been on the cover of Forbes 4 times. She has acquired, restructured, and rebuilt 31 companies in 26 years. She currently manages a private equity portfolio worth $31 billion. None of the men in this room know any of that yet. They see the jeans. Gerald Whitmore sets down his coffee cup and allows his gaze to travel across Zara with the slow, deliberate assessment of a man who has spent 61 years deciding what belongs and what does not. He is Calloway Industries board chairman. Third-generation wealth. Prep school, Princeton, 22 years in that chair. His tie alone costs $800 and he considers that modest. I'm sorry. His voice is the kind of smooth that comes from decades of being agreed with. But I believe you may have taken a wrong turn, sweetheart. This floor is restricted. The lobby can point you toward wherever you need to be. The woman doesn't flinch. Her thumb moves once over her phone screen, just once, hovering over a contact labeled legal, priority 1. I appreciate the concern, she says. I'm exactly where I need to be. 9 minutes until the Pemberton Group vote. $2.7 billion on the line. The other board members exchange the particular glances of men who want someone else to handle an awkward situation. Conrad Fitch, 54, silver-haired, VP of Corporate Strategy, leans toward the man beside him. Does anyone know who called a university tour up here? The executive assistant at the edge of the room whispers into her headset. Should I contact building security? Please do. Gerald doesn't look away from Zara. And perhaps someone from campus liaison as well. Zara opens her notebook. The pages inside are filled with dense, precise handwriting, financial diagrams, acquisition timelines, numbers that would make every man in this room sit down very quietly if they bothered to look. They don't look. They are staring at her flats. Her phone screen lights up. Bloomberg terminal notification. Then Reuters. Then a text from a private J.P. Morgan banking line. She glances at it without expression and turns the phone back over. Marcus Draper, 48, broad-shouldered, head of mergers and acquisitions, crosses his arms. This is a closed board session. Whatever you're selling, courses, activism, whatever this is not the venue. I'm not selling anything, Zara says. Then I'd suggest 7 minutes until the Pemberton vote, she says, consulting her watch. The leather strap is worn to a comfortable softness. If any of them looked closely, they would see the sapphire crystal face, the platinum case, the Swiss movement visible through the exhibition caseback. A Patek Philippe worth more than most cars. They don't look closely. Young lady. Gerald's voice drops half an octave, which is his version of patience. I've been chairman of this board for 22 years. I have hosted heads of state, managed Fortune 50 transactions, and navigated 3 recessions in this room. I know exactly who belongs here and who does not. He adjusts his cuffs. You do not belong here. Zara's fingers drum once against the notebook. I understand why you might think that, she says. Security arrives in under 2 minutes. 3 of them, the chief, a broad man named Wallace, and 2 others. They position themselves near the door with the careful body language of people who have been told something must be done but are not entirely sure what. "Ma'am." Wallace approaches. "I'm going to need you to come with me." "I'll need your badge number," Zara says pleasantly. "For documentation." "Your what documentation?" "The kind that requires badge numbers." She produces a pen from her notebook. "Plain looking. Black. Actually a Mont Blanc Meisterstück disguised beneath a rubberized grip, $1,800 in understated irony." "When you're ready." The room has taken on a new texture now. Not quite confusion, not quite alarm, something in between that nobody has named yet. 6 feet of old money and genuine fury. "I have been extraordinarily patient. You have 30 seconds to identify yourself and explain why you're occupying the chairman's seat before I have you removed and charged with trespassing." Zara sets down her pen. "Before we get to that," she says, "I'd like to ask you something. In 22 years as chairman, have you ever read the complete corporate charter? Specifically Section 14, subsection D?" Gerald blinks. "What?" "The provision covering hostile acquisition protocols and emergency ownership transition authority." She reaches into her notebook and removes a single document. Legal letterhead. Embossed. Official seals. "I ask because it becomes relevant in about," she checks her watch, 4 minutes. She places the document on the table. It slides toward Gerald with the soft certainty of a verdict being handed down. Nobody moves for 3 full seconds. Then Conrad Fitch leans forward and reads the letterhead. His face changes in stages, first confusion, then concentration, then something that has no polite name. "That's a Schedule 13D filing," he says. His voice has lost its earlier confidence. "That's an SEC filing. Filed at 9:44 this morning," Zara confirms. The SEC notification email was sent to all board members at 9:51. "I'd check your spam folders." 5 of the 8 men in the room reach for their phones simultaneously. The CFO, Raymond Cross, emerges from the adjacent office at that exact moment, drawn by the noise, taking in the scene with the expression of a man who has walked into the middle of a sentence. "What's the commotion? Are we dealing with—" He stops. Looks at Zara. Looks at the document on the table. "What is that?" It is not a question. "Raymond." Conrad's voice is barely audible. "Pull up your email." Raymond Cross is already moving. His laptop is open before he reaches his chair. His fingers work fast. His expression cycles through several things, none of them good. He finds the email. He reads it. He reads it again. Then he sets his laptop down very carefully, the way people set things down when they're afraid their hands might not be steady, and he says 3 words to Gerald Whitmore that will be repeated in every business school case study written about this afternoon for the next 20 years. "She owns it." "Impossible." Gerald snatches the document. His reading glasses come out, the first unplanned movement he's made since Zara sat down. His eyes move across the pages. "This, someone would have, I would have been notified." "Check Section 47 of your shareholder agreement," Zara says. "Individual acquisitions below 10% per entity don't trigger board notification. Only cumulative holdings above 51% require immediate disclosure." She opens a second document. "Which occurred at market close yesterday. At 4:23 p.m. Eastern. 7 entities," Conrad reads over Gerald's shoulder, his voice hollowing out word by word. "Northbridge Capital. Onyx Partners. Crestwood Holdings. Falcon Asset Group. Meridian Ventures. Tidewater Investments. Summit Capital Group." 7 shell companies, Zara confirms. 18 months of acquisition. All properly disclosed to regulatory authorities. All completely legal. all pointing to the same controlling interest. She folds her hands on the table. Mine. The security chief, Wallace, looks between Gerald and Zara with the expression of a man who was not trained for this. Do you escort out the owner? Do you detain the board? The policy manual has nothing on this. Gerald's jaw is moving but no sound is coming out. 51.4%, Conrad says quietly. She has 51.4% of Calloway. 51.4%. Zara's voice is calm. Acquired for $1.4 billion. Which represents a 33% discount from fair market value. She pauses. Would you like to know why your company was trading at a 33% discount? Nobody answers. Nobody needs to. Her phone rings. She glances at the screen. Excuse me one moment. She answers. Jack. Perfect timing. A pause while she listens. Yes, the Pemberton vote is still happening. Better than on track, actually. There's been a minor change in management structure, I'll explain at dinner. Tell your team we'll have board approval within the hour. She ends the call. The Pemberton Group CEO. He's been waiting 8 months for this acquisition to close. Gerald Whitmore, who has not sat down in 22 years during a board session, sits down. I want to show you something, Zara says. She opens her notebook to the middle. Page after page of dense, precise notes. Dates. Times. Names. Verbatim quotes. Each entry is methodical, the record of someone building a case with the patience of a person who has been dismissed before and knows that patience is the most precise weapon in your customer service department, she says. Standard employment. My legal name on every form. Background check passed. Paychecks properly taxed. She turns to a page and smooths it flat. I wore jeans and simple shirts every day. I wanted to see exactly how your managers behave when they believe no one important is watching. The room's silence has changed quality. It was hostile before. Now it is something closer to dread. Week 2. She reads without drama, without performance, in the tone of a person reciting facts. Supervisor tells a new hire that her natural hair is a bit much for client-facing work and suggests she consider a more corporate look. The new hire is 23 years old. It is her first professional job. Zara turns the page. Week 4. A department manager tells a team member from Mexico City that his accent creates confusion on calls and that he should work on sounding clearer. The team member has a master's degree in communications. His metrics are the highest on the floor. Marcus Draper puts his phone down slowly. Week 6. HR director jokes during a manager's meeting, which I attended as a floor supervisor, that the new diversity initiative is basically HR doing penance and that the pendulum has swung so far it'll break. The other managers laugh. She turns another page. Week 9. A vice president suggests during a budget review that certain salaries in the minority hire pipeline don't need to match market rate because they're grateful for the opportunity. She closes the notebook. 81 documented incidents. 44 instances of appearance-based bias. 37 cases of ethnicity or gender-based professional dismissal. 26 examples of wage disparity. All recorded. All legally obtained. All time-stamped and corroborated. Conrad Fitch has not spoken in 4 minutes. But the documentation isn't what brought me here, Zara says. I came here because of the numbers. Because your bigotry isn't just morally bankrupt, it is literally costing your shareholders hundreds of millions of dollars every single year. And I want you to understand exactly how. She opens her tablet. The screen shows a financial breakdown that is, in its own way, the most devastating thing that has happened in this room all morning. The Pemberton Group was ready to cancel their acquisition partnership 7 months ago. Not because of Calloway's financial performance. because their board refused to approve joint ventures with companies carrying active discrimination litigation. She swipes to the next slide. 3 lawsuits last year alone. Combined settlements of $67 million, all sealed, all quietly buried, all representing a liability cloud that sophisticated institutional investors recognized and priced into your stock. She swipes again. Vertex Corporation terminated a $210 million contract last quarter. Their internal memo, which I have a copy of, cited unacceptable reputational risk and cultural misalignment. Trident Industries declined a $120 million partnership discussion for identical reasons. Pacific Merchant Group withdrew from an acquisition conversation worth $85 million. The numbers accumulate on the screen like a slow flood. Combined annual revenue loss attributable directly to discrimination, litigation, and reputational damage, $590 million. That is 21% of Callaway's total annual revenue. I acquired 51.4% of your company at a 33% discount because institutional investors understood what your board apparently did not, that exclusion is not just wrong. It is financially catastrophic. Gerald Whitmore's face has taken on the particular pallor of a man watching a building collapse in slow motion and recognizing, with absolute certainty, that he is inside it. "You bought our company," he says. His voice is barely above a whisper. "To prove a point." "I bought your company," Zara says, "because your company was undervalued for a reason that could be corrected. The proof of a point was secondary." She closes the tablet. "But I will admit it has been educational." Zara stands. The room follows her movement the way rooms follow the movement of people who have stopped needing permission. She walks to her bag, plain black leather, unbranded, the kind of bag that holds documents rather than making statements, and removes something that is not a document. It is a photograph. She sets it on the mahogany table gently, the way you set down something that has been carried carefully for a long time. "Her name is Camille Reyes," Zara says. "She is the most gifted financial analyst I have ever met. We studied together at Harvard. She could read a balance sheet the way musicians read scores, instinctively, structurally, 3 moves ahead of everyone else in the room. 2 women at graduation, one tall and dark-complexioned, one Latina and luminous with possibility. Both of them grinning at the camera like the world is waiting for them. Because it was. Camille worked at Calloway Industries in 2018. She lasted 5 months. The silence in the room has weight now. She never told me why she left. Not really. She said it hadn't worked out. She moved to a smaller firm, then a mid-size fund, never quite finding her footing again. I watched her shrink. Watched her stop speaking in rooms where she should have been leading the conversation. Watched her apologize for her own ideas. Zara looks at the photograph. 2 years ago, at a conference in Chicago, she finally told me what happened here. What was said to her in this building. What she was told she was and was not capable of. What sounds her supervisor made about her accent when he thought she was out of earshot. The photograph stares up at 8 men who have no idea what their casual cruelty costs. She said that Calloway made her believe, for almost 3 years after she left, that the problem was her. That she wasn't enough. That rooms like this one would always be places she was merely tolerated rather than needed. Zara's voice is steady. It has not cracked once. It will not crack. Camille now runs a $200 million division at BlackRock. She is one of the most respected analysts on Wall Street. She was always that person. Calloway just spent 5 months trying to convince her otherwise. She picks up the photograph. Looks at it for a moment. When she finally told me, I made her a promise. I told her that Calloway Industries would change. That no other Camille would walk out of this building smaller than she walked in. She sets the photograph back down. That promise took 18 months of acquisition strategy, 12 weeks of undercover documentation, and approximately $1.4 billion to keep. She looks around the table. But I keep my promises. The moment that follows is not silence so much as the complete collapse of sound. Gerald Whitmore, who has been chairman of this board for 22 years, who has shaken hands with senators and attended state dinners and sat in rooms where genuine power was exercised, Gerald Whitmore, for the first time in memory, does not know what to do next. Before we discuss next steps, Zara says, settling back into the chairman's seat with the ease of someone who has always known it was theirs, let me introduce you to the full scope of what happens now. She opens her tablet to a comprehensive restructuring plan. Charts. Timelines. Implementation schedules dated, named, budgeted. This is Protocol 7. I've used it at 4 previous acquisitions with comparable cultural dysfunction. Average time to financial recovery, 11 months. Average stock price improvement, 38%. She swipes to a timeline. Calloway's version begins today. She reads through it without theater, without gloating, in the tone of someone executing a plan they have rehearsed until it is simply procedure. As of 10:52 this morning, the existing board is dissolved. Delaware General Corporation Law, Majority Shareholder Restructuring Authority. Legal counsel can verify, I'd suggest he do so now. She glances at the corporate lawyer, who is already frantically searching his phone. She gives him 6 seconds. The new board convenes at 3:30 this afternoon. 7 members. Their files are already in your system. Conrad opens his laptop. Pulls up the corporate directory. Goes pale. Former Chief Justice Adiz Zak of the Delaware Supreme Court, Zara continues. Dr. Priya Sharma, Harvard Business School, 3 consecutive years ranked the top professor in organizational transformation. Thomas Ellerby, former CEO of Pacific Merchant Group, you may recognize that name from the contract you lost last quarter. He recommended the acquisition the moment the restructuring was announced. Delia Fontaine, CFO of Vertex Corporation until last year, when she retired to advisory work. She's unretiring. She swipes again. Combined experience, 163 years. Average annual return on equity under their previous leadership, 26%. Marcus Draper speaks for the first time since the filing was revealed. His voice has the particular flatness of a man whose defenses have been methodically removed. What about the existing executive team? Retained where performance justifies. Replaced where it doesn't. Zara looks at him directly. That assessment has already been completed. Your division has the best performance metrics on the floor. You're staying, assuming you'd like to. He blinks. People who are good at their jobs, Zara says, have nothing to fear from accountability. The ones who should be afraid are the ones who confused the absence of oversight with the absence of consequences. She closes the restructuring plan and opens something else before they understand why. There is one more folder, Zara says. I had hoped we wouldn't need it. The document she produces is thicker than the others. Heavier. It carries the particular gravity of information that has been compiled slowly, by professionals, with the kind of patience that comes from having no doubt about what will be found. 18 months of corporate investigation doesn't only reveal discrimination patterns, she says. It reveals everything. She opens to the first page. Mr. Whitmore. Your personal use of Callaway aircraft for family travel totals $1.6 million over 4 years. The flights are logged as client development. The client manifests show your wife, your 2 adult children, and on 3 occasions a woman who is listed in HR records as your personal assistant but appears to have attended no client meetings whatsoever. She turns a page. The IRS tends to find that kind of thing interesting. Gerald's expression has stopped being readable. Mr. Fitch. Your executive expense account contains 43 receipts from restaurants that do not appear in any business directory, tax record, or satellite image. The total is $312,000 over 3 years. She turns another page. Mr. Draper, this doesn't apply to you, yours are clean. For the record. Marcus Draper says nothing. His jaw is tight. Oliver Bassett. She looks at the CFO. Your brother-in-law's consulting firm received $840,000 in payments over 2 years for deliverables that have no documentation, no project files, and no record of any meeting, call, or correspondence in Calloway's system. She closes the folder. Forensic accounting. Same team that assisted the prosecution in 3 major SEC enforcement actions. 18 months of work. Receipts, flight logs, bank records, internal communications, all of it. The silence now is not the silence of men who are thinking. It is the silence of men who have stopped thinking because there is nothing useful left to think. You have 2 options, Zara says. The first, you leave quietly. Standard severance. Non-disclosure agreements that protect whatever reputation remains. No reference calls, but no public record. She sets the folder aside. The second, you contest the acquisition. Challenge the restructuring. Fight me in court. She looks around the table. Option 2 comes with the full forensic file going to the SEC, the IRS, and the Department of Justice by end of business today. I'll also make the recordings of this meeting available to every major financial journalism outlet currently waiting for comment in my press secretary's inbox. She stands slowly. I should mention that I have dinner with a senior senator on the Judiciary Committee on Thursday. He has been very interested in corporate accountability legislation. Your names would make excellent case study material. Gerald Whitmore, 61 years old, third-generation wealth, 22-year chairman of the board, looks at Zara Stiller across a mahogany table that is no longer his, in a room that is no longer his, in a building that is now, legally, completely, irrevocably, hers. What, he says, do you want us to do? I want you to stand up, she says. Collect your belongings. Walk to the elevator. And go home knowing that the best thing you can do for Calloway Industries now is to never set foot in this building again. She checks her watch. The new board arrives in 40 minutes. I'd like the room cleared and prepared for actual work. At 3:31 p.m., the new Calloway Industries board convenes. 7 people around the mahogany table that has been the site of 2 very different kinds of meeting today. Chief Justice Zach at the chair's position. Dr. Sharma with her notebook open. Thomas Ellerby, whose company Calloway lost last quarter, now on the inside of the room where the decisions are made. Delia Fontaine, who has already reviewed the financial position with the focused attention of a person who can't wait to start. And at the head of the table, Camille Reyes. She enters the boardroom at 3:28, 3 minutes before the meeting begins, wearing a gray blazer and carrying a laptop under one arm. She stands at the threshold for a moment, just a moment, looking at the room that tried to break her 5 years ago. The room that sent her home smaller than she arrived. Then she walks to the CFO's chair and sits down. You actually did it, she says quietly to Zara, who is standing by the window. We did it, Zara says. Your courage to tell me the truth made all of this possible. Camille looks around the room. At the new faces. At the empty chairs where Gerald and his board sat this morning. How long have you been planning this? Since the night you told me in Chicago. Zara sits beside her. 18 months, 4 days, and approximately $1.4 billion, the kind that comes from somewhere deep and long held. That is the most expensive promise anyone has ever kept for me. You're worth it, Zara says. Now let's run a company. Chief Justice Zach calls the meeting to order. The first vote, ratification of new governance protocols, mandatory transparency frameworks, anonymous reporting systems with external auditing, passes 7-0. The second vote, approval of the Pemberton Group acquisition, $2.7 billion, the deal that has been stalled for 8 months by Calloway's litigation cloud, passes 7-0. Jack Pemberton participates by video. He says, "We have been waiting a long time for the right leadership at Calloway. Today is a very good day. The third vote, restoration of the Vertex Corporation contract, $210 million annually, passes 7-0. Thomas Ellerby, who recommended the deal the moment the restructuring was announced, is on the winning side of a vote he waited 3 years for. The fourth vote, reinstatement of the Trident Industries partnership discussions, passes 6-0, with Delia Fontaine recusing due to a prior relationship with Trident's board. 4 votes. For unanimous decisions. $590 million in annual revenue, the exact amount that discrimination had cost Calloway's shareholders, in the process of being recovered before the market closes. Camille Reyes, the woman who was told her accent was a problem, who was told she was too emotional for client presentations, who spent 3 years after leaving this building wondering if those people were right. Camille Reyes manages the financial analysis for all 4 approvals with the mathematical precision and narrative clarity that has made her one of the most respected analysts in American finance. Her voice fills the room without apology. The final agenda item takes 45 minutes and represents the most comprehensive corporate transformation protocol any of them have implemented. A real-time diversity dashboard goes live on the company website Monday. Hiring rates, promotion rates, retention rates, pay equity data, all public, all updated quarterly, all available to every shareholder and stakeholder who wants to look. No internal review. External auditing by a firm with no prior Calloway relationships. An anonymous reporting system launches simultaneously. Every complaint investigated within 30 days. Every outcome documented and reported. Executive compensation is restructured immediately. Diversity and inclusion benchmarks tied directly to bonus eligibility. No benchmark met, no bonus paid. This applies to every management position from team leader to C-suite. Employee equity program begins Friday. Not stock options with vesting cliffs and conditions. Actual ownership stakes, granted to every employee who has been with the company longer than 6 months, with additional grants for every year of continued employment. A mentorship program pairs every senior executive with a junior employee from an underrepresented background. Quarterly accountability reports. Real relationships, not performative ones. Total cost of implementation in year 1, $43 million. Projected annual savings from reduced legal liability, improved retention, and restored client relationships, $215 million. Net positive impact, $172 million. The math is not subtle. Accountability, properly applied, is not just morally correct. It is, by a significant margin, the smarter business decision. 3 months later. Calloway Industries employee satisfaction scores are the highest they have been in a decade. Not the highest in the company's history, that honor belongs to the years before Gerald Whitmore's tenure, when the founder, who built the company from a 2-person partnership in 1987, ran it on the simple principle that good people treated well do extraordinary work. The numbers from the first quarter under new leadership tell a story that financial analysts are calling unprecedented. Stock price up 41%. Market capitalization increased by $1.6 billion. New contract acquisitions totaling $780 million in additional annual revenue secured. The Pemberton Group acquisition closed 3 weeks ahead of schedule. Vertex Corporation has expanded their restored partnership by $70 million. Trident Industries has not only reinstated partnership discussions but proposed a joint venture worth $130 million. The diversity dashboard updates in real time. Shareholders who previously discounted Calloway stock due to its discrimination litigation cloud are returning. Institutional investors who had flagged Calloway as a reputational risk are upgrading their 47th floor, the one with the floor-to-ceiling glass overlooking Manhattan. Camille Reyes manages $3.1 billion in annual revenue with the focused, joyful authority of someone who has finally been given the room she always deserved. Her accent is unchanged. It has never been a problem. It was always an asset, and the people who said otherwise were simply wrong. The recording of the original boardroom confrontation, 93 minutes of audio, legally obtained, every word clear, has been licensed to 14 corporate training programs and viewed in condensed form more than 40 million times. Gerald Whitmore's voice teaches future executives about the cost of casual arrogance. His legacy secured, just not in the way he intended. The scholarship program that Zara established in Calloway's name launches with 80 full-ride recipients. Future executives who will inherit a business world where competence is the credential that matters, where what you know carries more weight than what you wear, where rooms like this one are not fortresses against the world outside but windows into it. Zara still wears jeans to board meetings. The difference now is that the room she walks into already knows what she is worth, not because of the clothes, not because of the credentials, not because of the $1.4 billion, but because of what she built in the ruins of what was broken, and because of the promise she kept to a woman who was told, by men in expensive suits, that she did not belong. The last conversation between Zara and Camille before the close of the first quarter happens in that 47th floor boardroom, late on a Thursday, the city blazing orange and silver outside the windows. "Did you think it would actually work?" Camille asks. "When you started 18 months ago, buying shares through 7 different entities, did you know it would end up here?" Zara considers this genuinely, the way she considers things that deserve a real answer. "I knew the math worked," she says. "I knew the legal pathway was clear. I knew the documentation was solid." She looks out at Manhattan. "But the thing I was least certain about, the thing that kept me up sometimes, was whether change in a place like this is actually possible. Whether you can walk into a room that has been built on a certain set of assumptions and dismantle those assumptions and have something better grow in their place." She turns away from the window. 3 months is not enough time to know for certain. But the numbers suggest we're in the right direction. She smiles. "And you're here. That's the part that matters most." Camille Reyes, who almost left finance entirely, who spent 3 years wondering if the people who diminished her were right, who rebuilt herself slowly and stubbornly until she was undeniable, looks around the room that tried to make her small. "Same time next week," she says. "Same time next week," Zara says. The lights of Manhattan burn on below them, indifferent, relentless, enormous, and the 2 women who changed a $4 billion company by refusing to accept that this was simply how things were sit in a room that now, finally, belongs to them. Sometimes the most powerful person in the room is the one everyone assumed had walked through the wrong door. Sometimes justice arrives not in anger, but in documentation. Sometimes a promise made in Chicago over dinner is worth $1.4 billion and 18 months of patience. And sometimes the person who changes everything is wearing jeans.